Good day, people of YouTube. What's going on? Name is AK, owner of eXtremeAzure Productions, and today I'm bringing you yet another X-React video presentation. And this one is going to be very interesting because this rumor is definitely one of the deepest that I've ever covered. It is coming from a report from a very well-respected news outlet, Nikkei, which is basically the Wall Street Journal equivalent in Japan. So like I said, they have a pretty decent record. And for them to report this, there is more than likely some truth to it. However, it is still being labeled as a rumor simply because of the fact that this has not come from Nintendo themselves. But the report is that Nintendo will be ceasing production of Wii U consoles and Wii U accessories as of this year. Basically, the report, which was translated, of course, from Japanese, states that the Wii U production would end this year as Nintendo is moving on to their next platform, which of course is the NX. The reasoning for this is, as the report states, that it is due to poorly selling software and an overall lack of interest in the hardware. The report also mentioned that Nintendo will be unveiling the NX, which should be a surprise to no one, later this year. However, this does not indicate that they will be releasing the system this year. Now, certainly the Wii U has not sold gangbusters. It is a secret to no one. Okay, the Wii U has not been the best-selling system. It is obviously going to go down in history as Nintendo's least-selling system. Well, least-selling successful system, I should say. Of course, the Virtual Boy found it hard to even break 1 million units. So the Wii U is only the worst in terms of it still being somewhat successful. Before this was the GameCube, which managed to sell just a little over 21 million units. However, it still trailed far behind the PlayStation 2, and so it was considered a flop by a few, especially since it was a downgrade in sales from that of the Nintendo 64. Alright, so basically since the 5th generation, Nintendo has been steadily losing market share. The N64 sold less than the SNES, the GameCube sold less than the N64. Of course, we had the whole anomaly that was the Wii. Okay, the Wii lit up sales charts all over the world, but then the trend was set back into place with Nintendo losing market share. Now here with the Wii U making another steady drop, in the system as of this year has sold a little over 12 million units as reported by Nintendo. That number is probably a little bit higher by now because that was a couple of weeks ago when they reported that, but anyway, 12 million units versus the Xbox One's over 20 million units versus the PS4's near 40 million units. So yes, the Wii U has not sold well. No one's denying that at all. However, that hasn't stopped the system from being quite amazing for everyone, well, almost everyone who's owned it. Alright, not a lot of people own a Wii U, but that hasn't stopped Nintendo as well as their partners from making some pretty amazing games. Some of the highest rated games of the generation are on Wii U. Actually, most of them are. Okay, the Wii U has the strongest lineup of exclusive titles, right? All the exclusive titles that have been brought over to Xbox One and PS4, when you merge all the scores together, they still fall behind the Wii U's review scores. Alright, so with games like Super Mario 3D World, Pikmin 3, Super Smash Bros., Mario Kart 8, Nintendo Land, so much more. Splatoon, Bayonetta 2, The Wonderful 101, DK Tropical Freeze, you know, it has so many exclusives, and so many of them actually got some really amazing reviews. So even though the system hasn't sold well, that hasn't stopped it from being a great console in terms of having a decent video game library. Now, of course, the biggest issue with the Wii U was that it wasn't as powerful as the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It was only just marginally powerful than the PS3 and 360, so developers found it early on to be difficult to develop games for the system. Combine that with its low sales, and they basically jumped shipped from around the first and second year of the console's life. So almost from the very beginning, third parties just went ahead and abandoned the system and left Nintendo to fend for themselves. And as a result, Nintendo has pulled their socks up. They went ahead, they released as much games as they possibly could. And the primary reason why the Wii U didn't sell very well in the beginning, yeah, okay, maybe it was confusing to the general consumer and whatever. But the main thing, how powerful a console's library is, okay? Its specs matter, yeah, okay. But its games matter the most. That's why it's called a video game console. And in the beginning, the Wii U did not have a very good selection of games. That gradually improved over time. But in the very beginning, it didn't have a very strong selection of games. When it launched, it had titles like Nintendo Land, New Super Mario Bros. U, Zombie U, and other miscellaneous titles. Yeah, okay, it had a good amount, but none of them screamed, get a Wii U, get a Wii U, get a Wii U right now. Those games came much later into its life cycle, some of which after the PS4 and Xbox One were even released, so that put it in a very tough position. Combine that with third parties giving it flack, what was seemingly week after week, and yeah, things did not bode well from the very beginning. However, I was not a day one owner. I got the Wii U when the system was just a little over a month old. I got it in December of 2012 unexpectedly, and I've loved the console. Okay, I do not regret having bought a Wii U in December 2012. Yeah, I saw the dark days of that really long drought, but the system has provided dozens upon dozens upon dozens of hours of entertainment for me, as well as my younger brother. Right, we have put hundreds of hours into Super Smash Brothers. He has put over 100 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles. I've put in almost 100 hours in games like Need for Speed Most Wanted U, almost close to 200 hours in Splatoon, and as well as Mario Kart 8. I think I put about 80 hours into that. So many other games that I have for the system. I'm just spitballing here. But yeah, I think I got my money's worth out of the system a long time ago. So even though it's gotten a whole lot of flack, and even though, if this rumor is to be believed, if it really does end up happening, even though this might be the end, I don't regret it, because I've been enjoying it. It's been 4 years. Well, not a full 4, but a little over 3 years now, because it came out in November of 2012. So yeah, a little over 3 years now. And by the time that we get into November, it will definitely be 4 years. So yeah, I've got my money's worth. So I'm depressed in the fact that I think it's a great system, and it's just one of those things that, you know, it's really good, but it's just not given enough credit for it. It's definitely the underdog of the generation. It's the Dreamcast of the generation in the sense that it came out at the wrong time, but it was a great system. Like, the Dreamcast was actually a really solid system. Okay, it had a good amount of power for its time. It was ahead in certain areas like online gaming, and it included a Ethernet port. It had built-in modem, so you could actually play online. And not only that, it was just a solid built system, and it had a good selection of games. It was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. Had they probably brought the system out just a little bit later, maybe things would have gone well. But because they brought it out so early, Sony came in with the PlayStation 2 and just swamped it. The Sega was already on very thin ice even before that, with the disaster that was the Saturn. And that brings me to my number one point about the Wii U. It really wasn't that much of a disaster when you compare actual console disaster. When you look back at systems like the Virtual Boy, the Sega Saturn, and the Dreamcast, among so many others, those systems truly failed. And when I say failed, I mean they lost so much money for their creators, and they did not excel in the market at all. The Wii U has more or less just been an underdog, but Nintendo has still managed to make a profit off the system. So as a product, even though the profit is small, it still made a profit. Alright, it wasn't the Virtual Boy. Nintendo just lost money on the Virtual Boy completely. There was nothing of value to be had, okay? Sega lost money with the Saturn and lost money with the Dreamcast. There was nothing of value to be had. At least with the Wii U, they were able to go ahead and make a decent profit, because while the user base was small, they were still very loyal. They went out and they bought the games. Mario Kart 8 is owned by almost half of the Wii U user base. Splatoon became an instant classic, and so many other titles have sold very, very well on the Wii U. Even Wind Waker HD, which was a remake, was able to sell over 1 million units, which is very, very good. So yeah, it's stuff like that, you know. Even though the system wasn't able to sell a lot of hardware units in comparison to the other guys, the software sales have still been really good. And that's what I find interesting, because Nintendo just praised the Wii U software sales. So it's very weird that Nikkei would say that one of the reasons why they seem to be ceasing production of the console is because of low software sales. That goes completely against what they just said. And Kimishima has gone on record saying that they intend to make more games like Super Mario Maker and Splatoon, you know, games that would invigorate interest in the system. They want to continue pushing the system. You know, he said this on multiple occasions that they weren't planning to kill off 3DS and Wii U, so I find it very weird that now we're getting a report that that's exactly what's happening, at least in the Wii U's case. So it should be, like I said, this is only a rumor, but because of Nikkei's reputation, it has to be taken with a little less grains of salt. All right, it has to be taken as with some truth behind it, because they're so well respected. So like I said, it should be very interesting to see how this develops. But I just find it weird, because seeing that the system is still getting games, they just released games like Pokken Tournament and Twilight Princess HD. Zelda is coming later this year, and then Star Fox is coming next month. We just got the announcement of Paper Mario, for example, and then there's Shin Megami Tensei x Fire Emblem, which is now called Tokyo Mirage Sessions here in the US. So it's still getting games. So I find it very strange that they would be ceasing production even though they're still making games. So if this is true, I guess that means that they just don't have any faith that these games are going to be true system sellers. But like I said, I still find that very weird. Anyway, I guess Nintendo will comment on the situation eventually, because you know them. They will talk now, be quiet for 10 years, and then talk again. So we don't know when we're going to get a full confirmation of this, but certainly this is definitely an interesting situation, and I hope that it isn't how it seems. But anyway, looking on to the NX, all I can say is I hope they play their cards right. Like I said, the Wii U was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Had it come either a little earlier or just a little later, maybe things would have turned out to be different. Nintendo underestimated the difficulty of creating HD games, which led to so many delays. So had the system got its core titles from the very beginning, maybe things would have helped out for the better. So yeah, looking at all the mistakes that they made with the Wii U, I really hope they can turn that around with the NX and make sure that the system is powerful, it's easy to develop for, it's not too expensive, and it has awesome games from the start. Those are what's going to make it a hopefully very successful system, but we can only see how this is going to turn out. Okay guys, before this video runs a bit too long, I'm going to stop it here. What do you think about this situation? Leave your comments down below. And if you're a Wii U owner, do you think that you've gotten your money's worth from the system? I know I have, but how do you feel about it? Until next time, guys, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. This is AK, owner of eXtremeAzure Productions, signing off. Peace.